Meet the Studebaker Superlark R2, the forgotten original Hellcat. While legends like the Ford Mustang live on, this beast blazed past and disappeared. Let's dive into the story of this American icon. The 60s was a wild time in the automobile industry, with Ford, GM, and Chrysler dominating the market. But then an underdog company came to the scene and challenged them. And that company was Studebaker. Before they built muscle cars, Studebaker had a history that went back over a century. Founded in 1852 in South Bend, Indiana, the company first made its name by crafting wagons, buggies, and carriages. In 1868, they officially became the Studebaker Brothers Manufacturing Company and shifted gears to become one of America's top wagon makers. But as the world changed, so did Studebaker, and they were soon ready to take on a new challenge: the automobile industry. Let's take a quick look at how this legendary brand laid the foundation for some of the coolest cars to ever hit the road. So, how did a wagon and coach building company enter the car-making industry and become a nightmare for big players like Ford? Studebaker entered the automotive business in 1902 with electric vehicles and in 1904 with gasoline vehicles, all sold under the name Studebaker Automobile Company. Over the next 50 years, the company established a reputation for quality, durability, and reliability. This cemented their place in the automobile industry. Although they designed a few cars, none of them were a success. But then they made a car that took people by surprise, and it was the Studebaker Superlark R2. The story of the Studebaker Superlark R2 starts in 1959, when this Indiana-based automaker introduced the Lark, a compact car with big ambitions. After a failed merger with Packard in 1954, Studebaker found itself losing money and struggling to keep up with the big three: Ford, GM, and Chrysler. So what did they do? They flipped the script and created a compact car that packed a punch, aiming to compete with the full-size cars from the industry's giants. It was a bold move, but one that would set the stage for something truly special. Studebaker's goal with the Lark was simple: make a great car without breaking the bank. They used the body shell of their mid-50s full-size cars, but shrank it down to create a more compact ride. Despite its smaller size, the Lark could still fit 6 people comfortably and offer plenty of space for luggage. It was efficient, practical, and surprisingly roomy for a compact car. The compact became a big hit in its first year on the market, moving more than 130,000 units. Sales remained strong in 1960, but then deliveries dropped in 1961. That's when the compact market got new cars from GM, Ford, and Chrysler. Not only did Ford introduce the popular Ford Falcon in 1960, but Pontiac immediately followed with the Tempest. In 1961, the market got even more crowded with the arrival of the Dodge Lancer, Chevy 2, and Oldsmobile F85. Now, Studebaker had to do something to keep the Lark afloat and interesting among the customers. So what crazy plan did Studebaker have to make an iconic compact muscle? Let's see. Although design-wise the car looked the same, there was a small change in its power unit. The company also transferred the 289 cubic inch 4.7-liter V8 engine from the Hawk lineup as a performance-oriented option. Rated at 210 horsepower, the 289 V8 gave the Lark a significant edge over the Ford Falcon, which didn't get a V8 until 1963. But all of this was not enough. The company was losing huge amounts of money as sales were going down. Now that's when the most iconic Studebaker compact muscle car hit the market. This was none other than the 1963 Studebaker Superlark R2. Many people may not have even heard about Studebaker, let alone the Superlark R2. But real car enthusiasts know about this high-revving beast. So how did Studebaker make this car insanely fast and quick? Studebaker took the supercharged version of the 289 cubic inch 4.7-liter V8 engine from the Avanti model and put it in the Superlark R2. It produced around 240 horsepower in its naturally aspirated form, but the addition of a Paxton supercharger boosted an extra 50 horsepower to the engine and gave it a whopping 290 horsepower. Crazy, right? The company even claimed a top speed of 132 miles per hour or 212 kilometers per hour. This was mind-blowing considering that this car was faster than any muscle car at that time, even beating the Ford Falcon. On top of that, the supercharged Lark was capable of hitting 60 miles per hour or 97 kilometers per hour from a standing start in just 7.3 seconds. For reference, the V8-powered Ford Falcon needed more than 10 seconds to get there. See what I'm talking about? This car dropped everyone's jaws to the floor. All these stats turn the Lark into America's fastest compact muscle car. Now let's get into the specs of the car. The R2 was available with a 4-speed manual transmission, which helped harness the power of the engine effectively, and some versions were also available with an automatic transmission. The Superlark R2 had improved suspension compared to the standard Lark, offering better handling and ride quality, which was important given its performance capabilities. But the Superlark was more than just a regular Lark with a supercharged 289. The Super badge was only added to the car when it was ordered with the optional high-performance package. Having said all that, the R2 was an absolute beast, not only on the roads, but also on the drag strip. This car was driven by Ted Harbit. For those who don't know him, I'll introduce him to you. Ted was a legend in drag racing, and certainly a Hall of Fame Studebaker owner. His Superlark R2 was an iconic car in the drag strips. People often call Ted Harbit's 63 Lark the Stude Tomato, or just the Tomato for short. He won several races with this beast, including the race conducted by the National Hot Rod Association. There was no car that was able to outrun this muscle car. With its powerful V8 engine and the supercharger, it was nearly impossible to beat this car on and off the road. It may seem like a normal two-door economical car because it had no hood scoops, cross-flag badges, engine callouts, blackout grills, stripes, fat mags, or any of that stuff. But it launched like 100 horses, fast, quick, and loud. While this car had a base price of $2,300 in 1963, if you want to buy one now, it would burn a big hole in your pocket. The value of a Studebaker Superlark R2 has increased in recent years due to its rarity and unique place in muscle car history. It would cost about 40 grand or more depending on the car's condition. Restored Superlark R2s often have higher prices, especially if the restoration is to a very high standard with attention to original details. The company fitted just 325 Larks with the supercharged 289 V8, and only 53 of them left the factory as optioned-up Superlarks. Now, this car is extremely rare and expensive. But the original, unrestored cars may have a slightly lower value, but are still highly sought after by collectors due to their rarity and legacy. But then what went wrong for the car and the company that made Studebaker close shop in 1967? Although Studebaker made some quality cars like the Avanti and Superlark, it wasn't enough for them to survive. The company couldn't produce enough cars to meet consumer demand, and it lacked the resources to stay competitive with larger manufacturers. Studebaker was financially strapped, and in 1963, the company was forced to sell off its South Bend, Indiana plant to raise funds and focus on its remaining operations. However, this was just one sign of the company's deepening financial troubles. By 1964, Studebaker ceased making cars in the United States altogether. The company continued producing cars in Hamilton, Canada for another couple of years, but by this point, the company was effectively out of business. Finally, on December 20th, 1966, Studebaker officially closed its doors for good. The last cars were produced in Hamilton, Ontario before the company ceased operations. This final closure marked the end of Studebaker's 114 years in the automotive industry. And just like that, the Avanti and the Superlark had a rather sad and unfortunate fate. However, it went into the history books as America's first compact muscle car and as one of the first muscle cars to have a supercharged engine. Although Studebaker was often overshadowed by bigger names like Chevy and Ford, the market left in the automobile world will be permanent. Making a track-worthy car that was faster than the dominating Ford during the golden age of muscle cars is no joke. The cars it built continue to be cherished by collectors and remain an important part of automotive history. And that's a wrap on the story of the original Hellcat, the Studebaker Superlark R2. What do you think about this forgotten powerhouse from 60 years ago? Can you believe how ahead of its time it was, packing all that muscle in a compact package? If you were behind the wheel of one, how would you push its limits? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more cool car stories. Make sure to tap that notification bell so you're always in the loop with our latest videos. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep those engines roaring and take care.